Hello and welcome to the April edition of It's a B2B Comms Thing here on LinkedIn Live. And today we're talking about LinkedIn Live and our experiences of going live for 6 months, which have been quite interesting, if I'm being honest. So I am Bass. I am a built environment marketing consultant and I'm the host for today. And Stacey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I am Stacey. I'm a former B2B property journalist turned content creator working with businesses in the built environment.
And Emma, go for it.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm Emma Drake. I'm a communication consultant, trainer and podcast host working predominantly in the built environment.
And if you are watching us live or if you're catching up on the replay, do leave something in the comments about, I don't know, the best thing you've seen this week, especially as it's April Fool's Day. If it's related to that, even better.
Yeah, best April Fool.
I know, it literally has finished now. So today's format is free comms pros, which is our slot, 3 questions, 15 minutes of chat, and then hopefully some Q&A. So if you do have a question, please do leave your comments and questions in the chat as well, and we'll pick those up towards the end. So going on to question 1, which is looking at LinkedIn. That's our topic of the day. So LinkedIn Live. So what do you need to know about using LinkedIn Live? I'm going to start with you, Stacey.
Right. Well, there's a lot you need to know, and we're going to cover. Each of us are going to cover different things.
Many of them we just discovered this morning.
Yeah. So, I mean, I suppose the first thing is that at the moment you need to use an external provider to do the broadcast. So we use StreamYard, but LinkedIn is developing its own in-house platform to do live. So you don't have to use an external platform, but they're beta testing that at the moment. So it's something to think about moving forward. But when using an external platform, you can customize it. You see our lovely blue banners and stuff. You can put the questions up. So you can add your branding and personalize it and make it quite slick. Now, we took a while to learn. We didn't do everything to start with. We kind of kept it quite simple, and we've added in new features as we've gone along. It is a bit of a learning process. The other big thing that we have learned is our very first broadcast. We didn't really know what to expect, and actually people started submitting questions, and we weren't really expecting that, were we? So we ended up adapting and actually adding a Q&A. So the engagement, we were really surprised by the engagement with the actual event. I've got loads of other points which I know Emma and I are going to come on to, but the other thing I suppose is to know about LinkedIn Live is it's not just a live event. You get a recording. The recording stays on your LinkedIn events page, and you can do stuff with that recording. So people can go back and rewatch it. So it's not just a moment in time thing. You do create some that does have longevity. So there is stuff that you can do with after the event. It's not just a one-off. Brilliant.
Emma?
What would I add to that? That's a great list, Stacey. Yeah, we've had to learn by doing, which I think is a brilliant way of learning to do anything, but not been without its challenges, that's for sure. I think for me, sort of the presentational bit aside, I suppose, is that it's glitchy, and we've had a few problems that we've had to work through. So things like you can't go in and change an event. You can't change everything about the event. We discovered that one recently.
What was that example, Emma?
Yeah, I think that might have been me. I think I said it for midnight instead of midday. But but it's fine. We got around it. Now we know how to work around that. The other thing is, they change things. It's glitchy in that we could see the comments when we first started doing the broadcasts, which was brilliant. We could see the engagement, as Stacey said. And then they just took that functionality away. So now we can't see the comments. So we don't know if you're there. We think you are. But, you have to get used to.
I can see some. I can see, but you guys can't, can you?
We're guests. So if you're...
I can see comments.
Yeah. So sometimes... There you go. Sorry. Point made. Moving on. What's the other thing I would say? I suppose we've had lots of tech fails, and, it's live. It is live. If you're not used to doing lives, it takes, a little bit of getting used to. We've had tech fails, wardrobe fails, doorbells ringing, all
Podcast
the
stand
things,
fails.
dogs barking, all the things you might expect. So that's just worth considering. I think we're going to come on to it as a platform for business and things like that, but it is slightly more informal, I suppose, in that sense. You're not in a studio, but it gives the impression of being in a studio. I think I'll probably leave it there because I think we're probably going to come on to the other points through the other questions. But what have you got to add, I
kind of think, one of the things about, I guess, any live is that it's that whole thing of we've had to be adaptable and think on the hoof, right? Because, Stacey almost got locked out. There were quite a few things. There were quite a few things where we went, oh, well, that time we were talking and we weren't actually live because, the whole StreamYard wasn't talking to LinkedIn.
That was awkward.
Yeah. So we kind of had to we've always had to kind of think of the hoof. And I guess that's part of the excitement of doing lives. But it's just, if that's not your thing, maybe this isn't for you kind of thing. But that's the same thing with, if you did a webinar and stuff, it would be the same, wouldn't it? And I think the other thing just to say is that you can probably, you don't only have to broadcast live because you have to use a third party at the moment. You can also you could stream straight into YouTube as well, or Twitter, Twitch, lots of other things, as well as we're talking about potentially, downloading things like audio and things like that and turning things into a podcast. So that kind of versatility is still there for you in terms of content and how you can use it. So I think that's kind of my kind of thing as well. But also, I guess it's all taken us time to learn to build on this as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of understand what to do, how to do it, which is one of the things you guys said as well. But, it does take time.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's a learn by doing platform. So if that's not your thing, there is no handbook. You can find out stuff like you can with most platforms, but actually it is a learn by doing. So you are thrown in to the deep end. First time, and the first one's the worst. So
absolutely,
many things in life. Anyway, Stacey, on to you. Question 2.
Question 2 is using LinkedIn Live good for business? And I'm going to go to IO first for that one.
I'm going to say yes, it is. Mainly because I can say video is the future, is the kind of line I was saying. But lives are a kind of good way to reach a wider audience. So it's very, very weird. We can't always gauge when we do a LinkedIn Live who's watching it, because the data isn't there to tell me who precisely is on live, which is why we ask you to comment, actually, because then we can see your names and have an idea of some of the people who are actually on live, because it doesn't tell us from the metrics. So it does make it a bit more difficult like that. And if I was doing an online kind of event elsewhere, I would be able to find out that detail. So I think there's things like that. But in terms of being good for business, I think it does, because it shows you as a speaker, people get to know you. And also, and you make more connections. So going live means that I'm talking to Stacey's network, I'm still talking to Emma's network. So we're all kind of building our kind of relationships and building our kind of network and engagement. So for me, I think it is a good thing for business. And I won a piece of the work off the back of it. So that's good.
So Emma.
Yeah, I would say yes as well. So I've got a few examples that I would cite probably. First of all, sort of building on your point, Io, with video, I would always advocate having more than one way for people to see you and to understand how to engage with you and to listen to your content or whatever that might be. So for me, this is my way of using video, and it complements my LinkedIn posts, my other parts of my content strategy, and my podcast, which is weekly. So for me, it's been a really good addition to my business, as well as learning it as a platform to use with clients. And I usually see a spike in downloads of the podcast after I do these B2B live events. This tells me that my content is working together. So what I would say is it is good for business, but like most things, have a go at it. But actually, it's got to fit within your content plan with what you're doing. Yeah. If it's unless it's something completely new and you're launching something completely different, of course. But mine all works together, and I think that works really, really well. Plus, I get to reuse topics across both shows, which is so people get another bite of the cherry, audience get another bite of the cherry, I get another bite of the cherry, and it's a way of sort of repurposing the content. And we all repurpose the content from this show. We get audio, we get video, we get snippets, we get graphics, we get quote graphics. I could use Stacey's content, I can use my content. It's really, really useful. And from that 15 minutes, it's amazing how much content we get. So I would say yes, overall good for business.
And sorry.
So do you want to add, and then I'll come in?
No, it's your question. I completely forgot.
We missed me out.
Like what?
I'll just go. Yeah, I agree with all those points. And I would add, the content thing is a really, really strong angle, because it's a great way of it's a hero piece of content essentially that you can repurpose, and that is all increasing your visibility. I would also add that not many people are doing it. I did a poll this morning and about how people were using LinkedIn Live, whether they'd watched, whether they'd taken part, whether people actually knew what it was, and there were a couple of people that didn't actually know what LinkedIn Live was. So it's kind of new territory, which means there's an opportunity to kind of stand out, because not many people are doing it. But also because LinkedIn is really pushing video at the moment, it's launching its own in-house live platform at some point. We don't know when. It's going to be pushing it. And so I think if you can start doing it now and practice and get used to it, though, that when it does start, when LinkedIn really does launch its own platform and starts pushing that, because it always pushes its shiny new toy, its new function, its new feature, you've already practiced, you've already got slick with it. So sorry, I'm looking. I actually bought. This is one thing I've learned, is actually to write down some notes, so not just doing it completely off the yeah. And the final thing,
it's so good when you do it off the hoof, though, Stacey. It's brilliant.
Well, the final thing to say is I have got work out of it. I have had people that have contacted me and they've asked me to do some work relating to something that I've talked about, or as a result of something that I've talked about on a LinkedIn Live. So yeah, I would say it's good. It's good for business. It's probably not for everybody if you're terrified about being on video, but yeah, I think it's good.
Brilliant. On to the final question. It's yours, Emma.
Yeah. So how does it compare to a webinar or another live online platform, do you think? Io, do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, I guess the other lives I've done are on Instagram, which do tend to be they did feel a bit slicker, but you can't stream into other platforms, so you have to do it direct for the Instagram app. So I mean, but again, similar in terms of tech failure now and then, weird glitches, but you get that on Instagram, you get that on every platform in a way. So I guess, but they have they have some better ways of promoting it. I know when we promote our events or these LinkedIn Lives, it's basically classed as a share. So your actual, you don't get very much traction on your posts itself, as we found. So we found lots of workaround. So I think on Instagram, it works better. They want to promote those. It's easier to promote them. And then there's things like countdown clocks. There's all of this kind of stuff that works really well. And I kind of think that's where LinkedIn's kind of failing in that way. So for me, I think that's the thing. But also I think things like you can't download your guest list, your event list. I mean, that delegate list, that's what you would expect to do if you're hosting your own webinar and stuff like that. So I think there's a few things where you're like, it's all kind of, they want to keep you within LinkedIn and not doing what the other platforms are doing and stuff. And so sometimes you have to kind of weigh that up as to what you're after.
I think that's a really good point. I think you two have probably got more to say about this than me. So I'm going to jump in on my own question.
No, that's fine. It's all right. I'm
doing
being
Stacey.
It's all right.
All I was going to say is that it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that is a really good point around it's a great way of doing a live. If you want to do all the things we said, if you want that hero piece of content, if you want to repurpose, if you're good at repurposing, if you can make it work as part of the other bits of the content machine in your strategy. But there are some really fundamental things you can't do that you've pointed out, Io, and I think that's really worth people today bearing in mind. We've struggled with that. Stacey, do you want to go and then I'll come back in? You answer.
Yeah, sure. I agree with everything Io said. I mean, the advantage, I suppose, of doing a live on LinkedIn over webinar is you might already have your ready-made audience. If you've built up a good list of connections and you've got a good network on there, that you've already got a ready-made audience, rather than if you are launching something from scratch from a webinar. If you're using external platforms, you're probably going to have more whiz-bang features. Like, for example, I think it's Zoom, you can get a Slido plugin, which allows that extra level of engagement. Whether those sort of features will be introduced when LinkedIn launches its own platform, I don't know. But I suppose the other advantage is you can do very short and sweet LinkedIn Lives, which if you're doing like a webinar, kind of, there is this compulsion to do like proper 45 minutes or an hour, whereas the LinkedIn Live, you can do something that's a bit more casual. You can do like, I think it's minimum of 15 minutes. You can do solo, you can do a solo live. I mean, I wouldn't, because the thought of doing that absolutely terrifies me.
You do video. You already do video in a feed.
That's not live. That's not kind of, I know it's weird, but sort of recording something that I can then, but me just sort of talking to my computer by myself and people, it just feels weird. But you can do that, and I have watched LinkedIn Lives where people have done that. So yeah, those are my points. I think that there's roundabouts and swings, but just coming back to Io's point, which we have found really, really frustrating, is promoting these lives on LinkedIn. They make it really hard, considering it's something that they want people to do. They make it really, really hard to promote these promote LinkedIn Lives. You get very little reach when you include the link on posts, and we've had to find all sorts of different workarounds to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything you want to close out with, Emma?
Yeah, I suppose it does have a slight. So just I don't do lives anywhere else really. I have dabbled on my Facebook page, but not consistently like I do here. So as I said, you two probably have more to add from that side of things. But I think it has a sort of intimate feel to it. I think it's tricky to use compared to something like Zoom, but like you said, Zoom feels more formal in some ways. If you're going to do a webinar, it's structured, you've got your presentation, whereas this, I think, feels more like you're in a studio, more informal, and you get all the bells and whistles quite easily. The branding stuff is not difficult to do once you know what you're doing. It's upload file kind of press button, and everything can be created in Canva. So yeah, I would say that's probably the main thing, and it does a lot of work for you. It's sort of upload file, press button. Yeah,
brilliant. Okay, so now we actually have people online, by the way. Cool. So we have best thing I've seen this week is snow from Caroline Mitchell.
Oh, me too. Yes,
everyone's seen snow. It's quite weird in April. Afternoon all from Ruth Taylor. Joe Twizzleton.
I can see the comments now.
Oh, there you go. Yay. She says here and afternoon, which is always lovely. And Helen Smith says hello as well. So we do have a question. So I'm going to flash it up. Has any of you gone live at an event before?
I don't know what I mean by going live at.
So there's an exhibition and you go live and broadcast. I haven't. Oh,
okay.
That. But
as a stream from an event.
I guess you could, but I would. But I think the whole thing is that sound. I'm always like sound quality and audio. Like it's hard to control at an event, so you probably want a better setup. Would be my only thing.
Well, I know
you've done a hybrid event recently, haven't you, Stacey?
Yeah, I did. Because I moderate at events, and I did a hybrid event recently where the audience were watching online, but I was in a room with the panelists, so we were all there. They had proper AV setup, lights, the whole kind of kit. So which was good, because it's always good being in the same room as the people you're talking to, but also a little bit weird because you can't see the audience because they're all watching online. So yeah, that's the closest I've got. But yeah, sound quality is really important, I think, on these, because if the sound quality is not very good, if it's really, it's really noisy. I mean, back in my journalism days, at MIPIM one year, I mean, this is years ago, we had like a studio set up, and we're doing interviews. Instead of having a stand, we had like a glass box, and there was a studio set up with cameras and lights and everything. And they were doing interviews actually at the event. I don't think they were broadcast live. I mean, probably you could possibly do that now, but it was a proper, kind of area set aside that it wasn't kind of just people wandering around and picking up the noise of everything going on around.
That's the only thing, though, I would say, because you could do this, and you could have a laptop, provided you could stream okay, so the connectivity was good because you're streaming.
I was going to say, exhibition sometimes is really good, isn't it?
That would be my biggest worry, but yes, you could do it. I mean, this is a streaming platform, so you can stream from anywhere to anywhere. It's just I would be concerns about audio and background noise, and the tricky connectivity.
Actually, I've just I have gone live at an event. Well, it kind of was an event. When I dabbled with Clubhouse for about 5 minutes, Clubhouse, which is the live audio platform. I was listening into a room, and I started listening, and somebody I knew was on the panel, and they saw that I was listening, and I was actually out for a walk, my lunchtime walk. So I was walking along my local high street, and they invited me up to kind of speak. And so I ended up kind of going up onto the virtual stage. And talking. And I just thought, this is going to sound terrible because I'm just walking along the street when there's traffic and people and stuff like that. But so I have done that. But if I was going to do that again, I wouldn't go up onto it was kind of like spur of the moment things.
I was going to say, but I've actually, I've been in a lot of Clubhouse rooms at some points when people were on it, but like there were people like washing up, making dinner. And it sounds awful. And I think that's the thing is, if you're going to go live, think about your audience. I think because you're right.
Headphones and everything like that. We've actually got another question. Shall I read it out? Have you got it there? Yeah, it's up on the screen. How long do you think LinkedIn Live should be? And do you have any advice on streaming tools? We didn't actually. We didn't cover how long it'd been, so that's fine. We don't know who's asked that question. I can try and answer that. I don't think there's any set time. I think we cited earlier on a minimum time, which I think is 15 minutes. We think that's long enough, actually. And I think it's one of the beauties of sort of popping in and going live and giving some really good content really concisely. And we've added the question and answer bit on to this show as we've gone on. And streaming, we're using StreamYard.
We are, and I think there's other ones like Rest Stream as well as another one. But I mean, they're all they're pretty intuitive to use. They've got loads of like help videos to show you how to do it. So they're you can learn them quite easily. So either of those work really well, and
quite glitchy.
And you can use Canva, like Emma said earlier, to do graphics and transparent overlays and stuff like that. So they make it look more professional and on brand. So I think you can do it. I mean, it's pretty low cost, really. It's low barrier to entry, isn't it? When you look at it as a platform, it's like, we're doing it from our podcast gear and through like StreamYard and Canva, nothing more. And it's us doing it ourselves.
StreamYard we've got a subscription to Stream. You can do a certain amount free on StreamYard, but we've got a paid account. But it's like, what is it, 20 quid a month or something
like that. It's so not ridiculous.
So it's not, so it is as,
and that's only because we have 3 users and we wanted to do it so we could share the prep load. It's a bit of prep.
But what we can do is we can in the comments after this we'll put in the streaming tools that we use and stuff like that, so you can kind of check them out and see. So we'll put that in afterwards. We've got a comment from Caroline Mitchell, which is, hello. I attended the conference that Stacey moderated with a guest panel, and you had one guest on Zoom.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yes, I did. That was really weird. I was because I had 4 panelists on stage and one person on a big screen behind them, and it was it was quite difficult. It was a tricky one to manage because I couldn't see them unless I actually turned around to look at them because they were sort of behind me. And it was just, and the setup wasn't great, but it served a purpose, and it meant that we got the person that was on screen. We got the person on screen to be able to take part because they couldn't attend in person. So it was great for that. And we kind of
Caroline then asks, is that a hybrid?
Yeah. I mean, I'm only just sort of learning about hybrid events. I think if it's kind of, my definition of it is if it's kind of like crosses over between virtual and in person would be my definition. I may well be wrong. So
no, I think you're right. I did a podcast episode on it with an event, with an events focus. I'll put the link in the show notes actually. And I think it is, when there's half the people are not there and half the people are there, and it's sort of like a hybrid situation. So you did a hybrid event and didn't even know.
Isn't there this whole thing with hybrid? Because that's the thing, isn't it? Like hybrid can be really awful because like sometimes you've got someone who's like right at the end of a massive table, or like, you know what I mean? So I do think there is this whole thing of
quality control's tricky.
Quality control and making sure that people know where to place themselves and how to be heard. And it's all those things again, isn't it? It's just, hybrid, I think, to make it work, and that, you know, you haven't got the God complex standing behind you, which is
yeah.
which is basically what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was, I think we're going to see more I think we will see more hybrids, because particularly post pandemic, that, you know, there's so much has gone online, and yes, people like being in the same room, but actually if it's online, more people can attend, and it's more accessible to those that can't travel to get to it. So I think I think someone will come up with a really slick way of doing it.
Yeah. The guest I had on, she was talking about, and I'll put her details and the podcast in the show notes, in the comments today. I'm not on the podcast.
Podcast mode.
Where are you?
And she was saying that actually the type of content you need for a hybrid event, which is the interesting point she made, was it has to be much more snackable. It has to be much more bite-sized throughout, because you've got people that are sat there, but people that are not, and you've got to keep their attention. And she was likening it to Ant and Dec's Saturday night takeaway, where you have a bit of a live element, and then you might have a bit of a quiz, and then you might have a bit of something else. And, you know, so it's a really interesting episode, actually. I've just noticed as well, Christian has said that that he was one of the people who didn't know what LinkedIn Live was. And what we didn't cover right at the beginning, actually, is what is LinkedIn Live?
Someone want to explain? Where are you, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, but in simple terms, it's a live stream into LinkedIn specifically. So a LinkedIn Live is just streaming in content from live, but it can be pre-recorded even, into LinkedIn's stream, so it appears on your feed, in your LinkedIn feed. Is that a good enough explanation? Do you want to?
Well, yeah, and it's all those. I mean, all the other platforms are doing it. Like Facebook, you can go live on Facebook. I know, Emma, you do Facebook lives. Instagram, I've mentioned Instagram. YouTube, you can go live. I mean, we're using StreamYard. Yeah, YouTube, we could simultaneously stream this onto YouTube at the same time that we're doing it onto LinkedIn using StreamYard. So you could go live if you've got various different platforms that you use and have got different communities around those platforms. You could simultaneously broadcast to different platforms. But yeah,
so I hope that answers that question.
Yeah.
Caroline Mitchell says you handled it well. It was a very busy room, Stacey.
Thank you, Caroline. I'll send you the 20 quid's in the post.
That's all the questions.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. So, is there anything else we want to add to LinkedIn Lives?
I think so.
Do we think more of our clients should be doing them? I've got a question for you.
Yeah, I would say yes. I think it's a really, we've already talked about it being a low cost entry into kind of doing these events. And I think you could come up with a really nice little series around your business. You don't have to do them every week, but you could do a really nice little series, and, decide on a format like we have. And it's just something different, and not many people are doing it. And it's something different to kind of doing a full-blown webinar with all the kind of bells and whistles that comes with that. And, you can brand it, you can do some sort of slick things with it. And looking ahead, LinkedIn's going to be pushing it pretty heavily when they introduce their own live platform.
Yeah. Someone has asked another question, actually. Is there so I'll answer yours first, Io. Yes, I think it is a good idea. Going back to my original sort of point around, does it work with the rest of your content plan? Give it a go, give it a try. But actually, it's a really, really good way to connect with an audience that you've already built up on LinkedIn, and a way for them to obviously see you rather than just seeing your posts. So I would definitely give it a go if it works for you and your plan. There's a question: is there a recommended time for promoting a live LinkedIn event? And actually, I did have this in one of my answers today. So could I answer that? Is that
sure?
We found that we wait till quite close to the time, given it's a social media feed and we're promoting on various platforms. So we tend to start. So these are on a Friday, the first Friday of every month. Put it in your diary. And we tend to promote from the Monday of that week, and we give it a really good push at the beginning of the week, and then a good push just before. But we always invite direct contacts, which I think Io covered in her answers. But you go in and you invite some of you, all of you perhaps have come through today. where you will get a message saying we're doing this event. So through the week we invite people and email lists as well. So
and actually, it's the direct invites that get us the most people
it's the
coming
direct
into it.
invites that get the most,
Because everything else seems to be stifled in terms of promoting it via LinkedIn. But inviting people directly seems to work the best.
So hopefully that
that's
answers
kind of
answers your question. If your time, Caroline's asked another one. If you're time poor, what would you sacrifice to insert this into the marketing program? Ooh.
It's like you're sacrificing your life. What would I sacrifice?
If you're time poor? Well, I mean, it could be anything really, couldn't it?
I don't know.
I mean, I would see it as, well, it depends on what your content strategy is, and if you have, what your hero content
I've got an answer.
Okay.
I've always got an answer.
Well, I will just say quickly, it depends on what your hero, because you can make this your hero piece of content. And, as we've already mentioned about repurposing, and we did a LinkedIn live about repurposing, I think February, was it? Yeah, I think it was February's edition was about repurposing. And I just to showcase what you can do, I created 9 different pieces of content from that LinkedIn live. So actually it was saving time in some senses, because I was creating a whole lot of content. So that was my social feed sorted for a while. And we're only scratching the surface of what you can create. You could probably create a whole month's worth of content from one of these if you really plan it well.
Actually, do you know what I would sacrifice? If you're posting long LinkedIn articles, which generally don't fly that well, I would sacrifice that for this and then take the transcript.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Because they don't work that well, do they? And I think you
get more value, more content, and this would be much more for the same amount of time you would spend. Probably you would be able to repurpose the what's-its out of this, whereas
Well, I mean, that's
one still get a LinkedIn post out of it.
I mean, that's one thing. That's one thing I've done right from the outset is I basically transcribed our chat, and I just take the first 3 questions. I don't do any of the Q&A, and I turn that into a post. I obviously edit it, tidy it up a bit and get rid of all our ums and ahs and stuff. But it takes me a couple of hours to create an article that's about 1,500 words that can then be repurposed and diced and spliced. So it definitely, I think that's a good point. IO is do it the other way around and start with this and then use it to create the written content.
Right, we are definitely out of time. So thank you all so much for listening and commenting, which has been awesome, and we've loved your questions as well.
Great questions today.
Thanks for tuning in. Obviously you can connect with us all on LinkedIn, surprisingly. So that's where we hang out, and we'll respond to your comments and stuff under this event as well. And if you've got any more questions about LinkedIn Live, please do drop us a line, because we're always online. And that's good. And thanks so much for tuning into It's a B2B Comms Swing. We'll be back the first Monday of May, which is
Friday. Friday Which is the 6th of May, because it's my birthday.
Day that Stacey will not be there, so we'll have to find a guest.
I'll be eating cake and drinking champagne somewhere.
You can go live from wherever you are.
Yes.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.